This episode, we're going to talk about what we're bringing with us. Obviously, we're bringing bikes. Here's my bike, a Velo Orange Polyvalent. It's got a nice small chain ring up on the front so I can get up the hills. It's got disc brakes on the front and the back, manual disc brakes, so I can get down the hills. It's got bar end shifters, fairly simple. It's got a nice heavy front wheel with a sewn dyno hub and lots of spokes. White Industries hub on the back, lots of spokes. Racks on the front and back. They're made by Velo Orange, made out of stainless steel. They do a great job. I've used them a number of times on tours, carrying bags. Also, since it's touring geometry, you can see that there's very little toe overlap, so I shouldn't be whacking the bags while I pedal. I've got 3 bottle cages on this bike, one of which is just for coffee. On the back, I've got an old Arkell tail rider for carrying tools and spares, and I've also got my lights run from the dyno hub back there, so I'll be visible. On the front is a canvas bag made by Acorn. It's got a big front pocket. I'll carry 3 or 4 spare inner tubes in there. It's got a map case on the top. Inside, it's got room for all kinds of things that I want to be able to get to quickly. It's got 2 little pockets on the back. The whole thing makes for a nice, easily accessible cockpit. I can also get to my GoPro there. I've got a bike computer, manual, and I've got my GPS as well. So with the camera set up like that, you'll get to see video such as this with me on a relatively level ground, and then stuff like this where I'm climbing little hills, or steep hills as we have on our island, and then some thrilling descents such as this, which is also on our island. Everything on Bainbridge Island is either up or down. So now let's talk about eating. Here's all of our cooking and eating stuff all laid out. Here it is bagged up quite nicely. We have a stove, a very old stove that folds up nicely but sits on top of a propane tank. Makes a great fire. Wonderful for boiling water nice and quickly so we can make coffee or cooking up eggs, pancakes, whatever in a pot and a pan. We've got a spare propane tank that we'll be bringing with us. There's the pot. It has a lid and it has a handle so it doesn't get too hot. The lid and the bottom can be used as plates, and it sits nicely on top of that stove. Here's the pan, which has a spatula that actually folds into the handle. And there's, of course, my favorite coffee cup. It has a lid and a handle. It's made of titanium so it doesn't get too hot. It folds up into that bag. It's got measuring gradients on the side so that I can be precise in my cooking. And the stove all folds up and collapses in there and sits in there quite nicely. I put the lid on it and then put it in the bag, and it keeps it all tidy. We also have, of course, accoutrement for making coffee, a French press. Can't have coffee without a French press. Can't grind the beans without a grinder. And the grinder has its own little bag. And so again, this all folds up nicely. We have each our own plate with sides that collapse up and down to make them bowls. We have cutlery and cups. And we have a knife for cutting cheese or whatever we need to cut. And of course there's a can opener. Oh, and there's me in the can opener. Self-portrait, nice. Then there's stuff to clean up with at the end of it all, and it all goes into these bags. Continuing the discussion of things we'll have with us that we don't need that much, sleeping. Here's the 2 panniers that we will have. They'll be on the front of my bike. Each of them has one for Carol and one for me, a 32-degree sleeping bag, a Big Agnes inflatable mattress, a couple of inflatable pillows, and some liners. Here's what it all looks like when it's packed up in the bags. Each of these weighs about 8.5 pounds, so that's not too bad on the front. Let's take a look at my bag just for detail. So here's that Big Agnes inflatable mattress. The stuff sack hooks onto it, and you then fill it full of air and roll up the stuff sack, and that squeezes air into it. It takes me about a minute to inflate my pillow, roll out my sleeping bag, and then I'm ready for bed. As I said, if it gets below 32 degrees, we'll have a couple of liners. We may use those in some of the hotels as well.